Marcus Brennan loosened his tie as he strolled through Riverside Park, grateful for the calm that autumn evenings always brought. The setting sun cast a soft golden glow through the trees, washing the park in warm hues of amber and honey. Ahead of him, his 4-year-old daughter Emma darted across the path, her pink dress fluttering around her knees as she chased the drifting leaves. It had been 18 months since Victoria. His wife had lost her long and painful fight with illness. 18 months of learning to be both parents at once, of fumbling through bedtime stories and comforting nightmares, of trying to mend a hole that could never truly be closed. Marcus had buried himself in his work at Brennan Technologies, expanding the business further than anyone had imagined. Some people whispered that he was avoiding his grief, and maybe they were right. But there was a reason for it. Someone had to make sure Emma's future was secure. He could give her comfort, safety, and everything she might need, except the one thing she missed most, her mother. "Daddy, look!" Emma's bright little voice broke through his thoughts. She was crouched beside a park bench, chatting animatedly with a young woman who sat there. Marcus's protective instincts flared instantly. He quickened his steps, ready to bring Emma back to his side. But as he drew nearer, something about the scene stopped him. The woman couldn't have been more than her late 20s. She wore simple clothes, a cream sweater and faded jeans, and her blonde hair shimmered in the amber light. There was something kind in the way she listened to Emma, truly listened, as though his daughter's words about her toy bunny were the most meaningful thing she'd ever heard. "And his name is Mr. Hops," Emma declared proudly, holding up the little white stuffed rabbit that never left her side. "Because he likes to hop, hop, hop." The woman smiled warmly. "That's a perfect name. Does Mr. Hops help you feel brave when you're scared?" Emma nodded with touching seriousness. "Especially at night." "Mommy gave him to me before she went to heaven." The woman's expression changed in an instant. A shadow of recognition and sorrow passed over her face. When she lifted her gaze to Marcus, he froze. A sudden jolt of memory struck him. He knew her. Not personally, but her face was familiar. He'd seen her before, in the hospital, during those unbearable months when Victoria had needed constant care. She had been one of the nurses, one of the quiet, compassionate presences who had helped them survive that awful time. "I'm sorry," Marcus said gently as he reached them, resting a protective hand on Emma's shoulder. "Sweetheart, you shouldn't disturb strangers." "She's not bothering me at all," the woman replied quickly, rising from the bench. Her voice was soft but sure. "I'm Rebecca. Rebecca Cross." The name hit him like a bell ringing in his mind. Rebecca. The night nurse who had often stayed beyond her shift. The one who had held Victoria's hand through the worst moments, who had somehow made those sterile white rooms feel a little less cold. "I remember you," Marcus said quietly. "You took care of my wife." Rebecca nodded, eyes glistening. "Victoria was one of the most extraordinary people I've ever known. She talked about you and Emma all the time. In fact," she hesitated, emotion tightening her voice, "she made me promise something before she passed." Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. "What did she ask you to promise?" he managed to say, his voice low. Rebecca's gaze softened. "She wanted me to tell Emma, if I ever saw her again, that her mother loved her more than anything in this world. That even in her final moments, all she could think about was her little girl, and how much she hoped Emma would always feel that love." Emma tugged gently at Rebecca's sleeve, her big eyes full of curiosity. "You knew my mommy?" Rebecca bent down so she was level with the child. Her tone was tender, filled with warmth. "I did, sweetheart. And she was as beautiful and kind as you are. She used to tell me that you were the sunshine in her life, her brightest little star. She hoped you'd grow up to be kind, brave, and full of love." Emma frowned slightly, deep in thought. "I try to be brave," she said softly, "but sometimes I get scared." "That's all right," Rebecca said with a gentle smile. "Being brave doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you keep going even when fear is there. And your mommy, she was the bravest person I've ever known." Marcus blinked rapidly, fighting the sting of tears. This woman, someone from the darkest chapter of his life, was giving his daughter a priceless gift. Living memory of the mother, She was slowly beginning to lose in the haze of time. "I'm sorry if we're interrupting your evening," Rebecca said, standing and brushing her jeans. "I often stop here after work. It's peaceful." Marcus nodded, studying her more closely. "Do you still work at the hospital?" he asked, his curiosity mingling with concern. There was a worn look to her clothes, and exhaustion lingered in her eyes, not just the kind that came from a long shift. Rebecca gave a faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "No, not anymore. I had to leave a few months back. My mother became very ill and she needed full-time care. She passed away about 6 weeks ago. Since then, I've been trying to find another position." Marcus's expression softened. "I'm truly sorry for your loss." "Thank you," she murmured. "It's been rough, but I'm managing. The hardest part is missing the work. Nursing was everything to me. Helping people gave my days purpose." Emma, who had been listening with the quiet focus only children sometimes show, suddenly clasped Rebecca's hand. "You should come eat dinner with us. Daddy always cooks too much food, and you look hungry." "Emma," Marcus began gently, half ready to correct her. But Rebecca's eyes had already filled with tears. "That's incredibly sweet of you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But I couldn't possibly intrude." Marcus looked at her. This woman who had once been a lifeline to his dying wife, who had just given his daughter something sacred, and he made a quiet decision. "Please," he said sincerely. "It would mean a lot to us. It's only spaghetti, nothing fancy, but there's plenty. And honestly, I think Victoria would have wanted us to share a meal with someone who meant so much during her final days." Rebecca hesitated for a moment, pride warring with gratitude and perhaps a hint of hunger. Finally, she nodded. "Thank you. I'd love that." Later, in Marcus's warmly lit home, elegant yet filled with a comforting simplicity, the evening unfolded naturally. Over steaming plates of spaghetti and laughter softened by memory, stories began to spill out. Rebecca spoke about her mother's struggle with Alzheimer's, about the long nights, the dwindling savings, and the stack of rejected job applications that followed. "The sad thing is," she said with a weary laugh, "I left nursing to care for my mother, and now hospitals won't hire me back because of the gap in my work record. So here I am, living week to week, renting a small room with what's left of my savings." Marcus listened quietly, his mind already turning over ideas, searching for a way to help. Even as compassion and admiration deepened in his chest, Emma had drifted to sleep, her small head resting in Rebecca's lap, something she rarely did unless she felt utterly safe. Watching them, Marcus felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in a long time. "What if I told you there's a way I could help?" he said quietly. Rebecca looked up quickly, her expression cautious. "Marcus, please don't misunderstand. I'm not looking for charity. I just wanted to keep my word to Victoria." He shook his head gently. "This isn't charity. It's an opportunity. One I think you'd be perfect for." Rebecca frowned, uncertain. "What kind of opportunity?" "At Brennan Technologies," he explained, "we've been trying to fill a position in our employee wellness program. We need someone with real medical knowledge who understands people, someone who can oversee health screenings, safety initiatives, and well-being projects for staff. The pay is excellent and it includes full benefits." Rebecca hesitated. "Marcus, I don't know." "You can do this," he interrupted softly. "You're trained, capable, and you care deeply. That's exactly what the job needs. Honestly, you'd be helping me out. Our last coordinator didn't have a clue about empathy. You do, and that's priceless." Over the next few weeks, Rebecca accepted the offer and began her new chapter. Her work quickly proved invaluable. But even more than that, she became an inseparable part of Marcus and Emma's lives. On weekends, she would drop by with paints and colored paper, helping Emma make collages or reading bedtime stories in her calm, musical voice. She never once tried to step into Victoria's place. She knew that space could never be filled. Instead, she became a gentle thread connecting what was lost to what was beginning anew. Rebecca often shared little moments Marcus had forgotten or never heard, about how Victoria used to tell terrible jokes just to make the nurses laugh, even on the hardest nights. How she had kept a secret journal for Emma, writing letters for every milestone she knew she'd miss. One evening, 6 months after their first encounter in the park, Rebecca arrived with a small, time-worn journal in her hands. Its cover was faded, the edges soft from being held often. "There's something I need to give you," she said quietly. "Victoria asked me to keep this safe and to pass it on when the time felt right. I think that time is now." Marcus took it with trembling hands. Inside were pages upon pages of handwritten letters, each one dated for a moment yet to come. For Emma's first day of school, for her 16th birthday, for her wedding, Rebecca whispered. She wrote them during her final month when she knew her time was short. She wanted Emma to always hear her voice, no matter how many years passed. Marcus couldn't find words. His throat tightened, his vision blurred, and all he could do was pull Rebecca into a heartfelt embrace. She had carried this treasure, this promise, for so long, and now, by honoring it, she had given them both something beyond measure. A year later, in the very same park where fate had brought them together, Marcus and Rebecca exchanged vows in a small, intimate ceremony. Emma served as the flower girl, holding Mr. Hops in one hand and a framed photo of her mother in the other. Because they all agreed Victoria should be part of that day too, if only in spirit. Rebecca never erased Victoria's presence. Instead, she celebrated it. She and Marcus would often sit with Emma, flipping through photo albums, sharing laughter and tears as they revisited old memories. In doing so, Rebecca didn't replace, she renewed. She helped turn grief into remembrance and loss into love. Victoria's journal became a cherished family heirloom. On birthdays, graduations, and quiet nights when the stars felt close, they would open it together. Each letter reminded them that love doesn't end. It changes form, living on through stories, laughter, and the warmth of shared memories. Rebecca became the bridge between what was gone and what was growing, between sorrow and healing. Sometimes the most extraordinary gifts come from a promise kept to someone who's gone. Healing often begins where we least expect it, in a chance meeting, a child's innocent invitation, or a kind soul who refuses to forget. And often, when we open our hearts to help another, we find that we, too, are the ones being healed. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that love can bloom even after loss, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories of hope, remembrance, and second chances. Tell us in the comments, who has helped you through a difficult time? Or how do you keep the memory of a loved one alive? Your words might bring comfort to someone who needs it today.